So talk to me about quests.
So quests are how the players interact with the narrative in the board game, like the main method of interacting with the narrative. We've taken quests more or less directly from both RuneScape and Old School RuneScape. I think we mentioned previously that the campaigns you play through are kind of the bigger, more iconic quests, but we also have a number of side quests in the game as well. So those are the two types of quests you can interact with.
So is the narrative like the story of what you're doing, basically?
Yeah, certainly. So that's where the campaign quests come in. That's your overarching narrative, and it actually progresses from one campaign to the next. The side quests are more individual sort of one-shots. They don't really often, they sometimes do, but they usually don't feed into the main narrative in the campaigns. They're just kind of this extra little thing you want to do as well. So we could go vampire hunting, or we can search for Gertrude's cat and sort out goblin diplomacy. It's kind of what.
But they won't help your overall objective. They're just fun things that you can do.
Not directly, no. But they'll give you extra experience points in skills. They'll give you resources. They'll give you coins. So if you're sort of a little bit poor at the time, you need some more resources, or you level a particular skill to then help you with a campaign quest, then side quests are very useful for doing that.
Sure.
But they don't directly feed into one another.
Okay, so you have your overall campaign, and then within that there are specific quests to achieve particular objectives.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the side quests are like little fun distractions that you can do on the side.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Almost like a side quest.
Yeah, precisely. Almost if we named it correctly. So what we can do is talk about how they absolutely work a little bit differently to each other as well. So sure. When you're performing your campaign quests, you have this campaign board which will walk you through it. You tend to work from top to bottom. Once you've completed every step, then you've completed the campaign, and you can tick those off by putting little RS tokens in when you've completed each step.
You said tend to work from top to bottom. Do you need to progress through it in order?
Yes and no. So it's a great question. I'll work through that in a second. So for example, take Vampire Slayer as our example here. The first quest is to speak to Morgan. So that's someone has to go to Draenor Village and speak to Morgan. And once they've done that, they'll draw a vault card, which we'll come on to later, and that will complete that element of the campaign. So you do have to do that first. Okay. Then you have to speak to Dr. Harlow. Once you've done these two elements of the campaign, it then splits off into three here, and you complete these in any order. So once you've effectively gone, speak to Morgan, who's saying there's a problem with vampires. Sure. Speak to Dr. Harlow, who's saying this is how you can slay a vampire. He's helping you out and training you. And once you've gotten that direction from Dr. Harlow, he's gone and told you to collect a wreath of garlic, a stake, and a hammer to help you with vampire slaying.
So you can then all maybe collude and say, okay, who's going to go and do what and what makes sense? Because it's not just one person doing these things, is it? It's sort of a group exercise. Yeah,
you're working cooperatively and collaboratively. So, but you can complete this element in any order. That's why, in terms of how we've laid out the campaign board, these three elements are on the same level, because you can complete them in any order.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So linear, and then, as you say, everyone can
split off and do different things. Yeah. Once you've completed all those steps, the last one is go and fight the boss with your wreath of garlic and your stake and your hammer. That should help you out in the boss encounter towards the end. Okay. So that's how campaign quests work in your overall. The side quests work slightly differently. So this is always open. It's always here. You can always interact with this. Side quests you actually have to pick up during your turn. Now, sometimes, just like the video games, you often have to be in the correct area of the world to actually pick up a side quest, to talk to the person that's giving you the quest. That's the same with side quests. So if you were performing Witch's Potion, for example, you have to be in Port Sarim. But when you're in Port Sarim, you can pick up that quest, and then you just have that's your side quest to get on with.
And they're open information, so someone could maybe have a look, see a side quest they like the sound of, and then deliberately sort of make their way towards that area to pick up that quest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Side quest, sorry.
For sure. And we'd actually encourage the players to talk about that as well, to say that's what I'm going to be doing, because otherwise two people could want the same side quest. If they haven't talked about it, someone could pick up and
it's just a race.
But I wanted that. And these will tell on you as well what kind of benefits you're getting for completing the side quests. They'll tell you what you have to do for it, so you can have a good look at them between your turns, say if I want to go on that side quest. Once you've picked up a side quest as well, these will refill, so others will be drawn out, and you've got more options.
And that's a random draw, so it's not like there's set side quests that give you benefits that are relevant to the campaign. That's maybe potluck.
Yeah, that's most of the time that's true. We give you some starting side quests to sort of get you going, to make sure you've got some simple ones to get off with. But once you've got off to a good start, then they'll come out in a bit more of a random order.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, cool.
So the other thing we need to probably talk about, I mentioned the vault earlier as well. That's a good time to come on to this, actually. So this can happen both when you're dealing with campaign quests, and it can also happen with some of the longer side quests. Quite often a side quest will be a single card. Once you've completed what the quest tells you to do, it'll say quest complete, get your rewards, do this thing next. If it's a longer side quest, it'll say draw vault card number something. Okay. So if we were performing a longer side quest, then it would say draw a card from the vault. So these cards, this is the vault deck. So these are all numbered. They're never shuffled. They're in a particular order. Right. This is where we store a lot of the extra information and the sort of the episodic elements of the story for the game.
Is this like sort of how it evolves
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah. So if we're playing a longer side quest, we didn't want to say all of the narrative of that side quest, perhaps a bit of a reveal of it's been slightly different, or if it's a side quest we've created for the game or we've iterated on stuff, something that's a little bit different in the video games, that information will be hidden in the vault deck and revealed later on. And as you mentioned, this is how the game evolves as well. Certain things that you do in the game may cause a permanent change here.
Okay.
So as you're completing your campaign quest, it might tell you to take out cards from the vault deck and shuffle them into the exploration decks that we mentioned. So as you're exploring more of the world, you're encountering brand new cards with new effects, or you've done something earlier on where an NPC you've talked to and helped out might appear later on in an exploration card and go, you helped me out, now I'm going to help you out with something, or something bad has happened. And
so you've created like a little ripple maybe that might pop up later on, basically.
Absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely,
interesting.
Yeah. And as another iteration of how that can appear as well is, so one of the things we've mentioned, I think briefly, is that if you ignore your campaign quests for too long, you can come back to these anytime that you like, really. But if you take too much time getting on with them, then the sort of the danger element of the game board is going to increase over time as you haven't dealt with this threat that's ever encouraged. So
if you're too distracted doing side quests, meandering off, because it's like you've got a path in the middle, which is your campaign, and you can meander and do different side quests. But if you spend too long messing around and not progressing this, then there's a consequence.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. So at the side of the game board here, we have this escalation track, and there are certain things that will happen in the game. So, for example, exploring or moving to a capital will cause the escalation track to move up.
Okay.
And if you fail certain skill tests, it'll tell you to move the escalation track further up as well. Now, once this gets to the top, you start flipping over campaign cards here that will make permanent changes to the game board. So this is where, say, the Vampire awakens, and this is where Count Draenor has started exploring more of the game board, and
ranging a field, looking.
Exactly. Okay. He's not just terrorizing Draenor Village anymore. He's going to start ranging out to other areas of the game board. So we start putting down these things called danger tokens that make your skill tests more difficult to pass. You start taking out sort of more difficult exploration cards that get shuffled into the decks, and it becomes more difficult to do what you want to do. And it's sort of going, don't ignore the campaign. It's going to keep getting worse. To a point where, in some instances, if you leave it too long, you're actually brought into a boss fight before you finished the campaign. So you might not, imagine going to fight Count Draenor without your vampire stake and without your garlic. That would be much more difficult.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Okay, so yeah, have fun. Go and do things, but don't forget that there's this ever-present threat that's waiting for you to go and deal with it. Okay, interesting, cool, yeah.